Right.
A lot of times I use the analogy of a general contractor. I'm like,
Yeah.
hey,
Yes.
have you ever remodeled a house? I actually just went through it myself. And the reality is, like, I could have probably remodeled my house, but I don't have the time, the energy, and the expertise to do that for an investment of this magnitude. I actually have retained a general contractor who, while he is not the one hammering the nails,
Right.
he is really good at, he knows how the permitting process, he knows exactly what steps we need to take, he knows how to project manage, and he knows which subcontractors to hire and how to move the process along.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the Exit Is Now podcast with me, your host, Scott Snider, hanging out today with our exit planner of the year, Joe Seetoo. Welcome to the show again. This is, I think, your third time, right?
Yeah, third time, right, Scott? Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so I think you were on, season 2 of the podcast where we did Flip the Script.
Yep.
And then you're recently on our season 3 here when we did our Summit Live sessions.
Yes.
And now we're back. And what I wanted to have you in the studio for is to talk about what makes a best-in-class advisor. So really the objective at the Exit Planning Institute is to help advisors become the most trusted and valued advisor. So naturally to do that, we collect data on professional advisors and then what owners want in their professional advisors. And over the last 5 years, we've come out with these 3 best-in-class elements that we now incorporate into what we teach at EPI and I think is what all advisors, all certified exit planning advisors at EPI really kind of journey to be, which is this best-in-class advisor. And there's 3 things that make that up. One, the best-in-class advisors have really had an impact with an owner because they've changed their approach and language with an owner. They're understanding the owner better. They're meeting the owner where they are. They're leading with value acceleration language. And are really connecting with an owner on a deeper way. 2, it's more advisor facing. They've become excellent collaborators and connectors of people. And then the 3rd is they've become lifelong learners. I think the beauty of the value acceleration methodology is as more and more owners adopt that methodology, we learn from them.
Yeah.
And so the methodology is constantly changing. And as the exit planner of the year, you showcase all 3. And so it's a really privilege, I think, to have you here in our office hanging out with us on the podcast and doing all kinds of stuff for our annual Exit magazine that you all will see in February of 2026 with Joe on the cover as our Exit Planner of the Year. And a not only multiple times on the show, but multiple award winners too. This guy's like on a hot streak. It was Member of the Year to Leader of the Year to now Exit Planner of the Year, and really well deserved. So I thought we'd take that and look at our number 1 CEPA in the EPI community today, and talk a little bit about what makes best in class. So welcome.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
No, I love what you said, and you had asked, we were talking a little bit about like what's sort of changed at Morton since, I got involved with this, and, you hit the nail on the head, right? Which is obviously going through it. The education is so critical, and that's sort of the first step, but then taking that and then translating it into a practice that's actionable, that you can have impact with owners is something that certainly I've embraced. I've been sort of indoctrinating our other advisors at Morton to embrace it. Yeah. And that's ultimately where we landed in terms of crafting the strategist offering too.
And I think it's really interesting with you too, because you're one that also kind of lives the methodology in his practice too, right? So you use it, to your point, on your own practice, and I think therefore you can teach it to others, meaning business owners as well. So it's a kind of an interesting thing, and we tell a lot of CEPAs coming through the program. You might remember this, where we said the best practice post CEPA would be just do it on yourself, your team, your own business, whatever that might be. So when the owner's asking you, well, what's your strategy? You kind of you certainly have one, and you were talking to us here in Cleveland about spending time. You have the executive retreats and your quarterlies, and same type of thing that you showcase or that we showcase inside the methodology. So I think that's unique as well.
Well, and to that point, I mean, and I'm really blessed to have great partners who it just so happens that sort of my own journey through with what I'm learning here in the Exit Planning Institute and what we instituted in our practice sort of naturally evolved as we took over our company, and really the second generation owners, myself being one of them as well, our CEO, our COO, and the rest of the leadership team. We kind of just naturally grew from what really was more of a lifestyle business to creating transferable enterprise value for ourselves, for our next generation. So it was almost this sort of fortuitous path that as I was going down it, I was talking about it with my partners, but we were going through that journey ourselves. And to your point, we're doing an offsite leadership retreat next week to actually reset our quarterly, we call them OKRs, but they're essentially our rocks, like in EOS language, and recalibrate where we're at. On our 10-year vision. We're essentially 5 years into where we were when we started that 10-year vision 5 years ago. We've actually scaled to now about $3.5 billion in assets.
Congratulations.
In terms of where we're at as a business.
Yeah, right. And so it's working, right? And
absolutely.
You can see it working.
100%.
So was that change hard when you came out of the CEPA program, you're like, man, I would assume you're like, man, we got to get rolling. I mean, you were like, came out of the CEPA program, started a chapter right out of the gate, right? But when you look internally at Morton, was that kind of, we would call it, right, inside of the EPI world, this year-over-year success mentality to, yes, we need that, but we need this long-term significance, right? We want to transfer to the next generations. We want to onboard new partners and continue to grow our firm. What was there any, when you went back to your partners and the folks inside of your firm to say, hey, I want to start to adopt some of this value acceleration stuff. Was that difficult?
Well, the good news was I didn't have to really convince them. It was something we all, I think, once we got our vivid vision, which is really, and our CEO obviously led the charge on that, but that was a real big buy-in from the entire team. It was something that I think that North Star that you talk about, that you even see here in the halls of EPI, that we're always talking to owners about making sure that they have, that is going to take that sort of lifestyle business to one of transferable enterprise value and significance, like you talk about. Everyone starts to get on board, and it almost becomes that snowball that is rolling down the hill. And at some point, it's like you're pushing it, and then one day it's like you're trying to keep up with it.
You're kind of running after it.
No, you're running after it, right? And there's like the growing pains of growth, but in a good way.
In a very good way.
In a good way.
An intentional, focused way, too. I think
100%.
Embracing something like the methodology that we teach allows growth. Now, I don't want to say to make it simpler, but I think it makes it more manageable because you just feel more in control, like
there's a
framework.
There's a framework. There's a process. You're not just throwing stuff, I think, against a wall, hoping to see just what sticks. Right. There's a higher level of accountability. It's easier for decision making. Both hiring and firing people. Where to invest capital, invest your time, your resources, all the things that we talk about. So. I absolutely wholeheartedly believe in the methodology.
Cool. So I want to dive into these three best-in-class elements of a CEPA, and I want to leave the audience with some actionable items and some inspiration. So I want to kind of keep it very direct. And so when I thought of you and the relationship that you and I have been building over the years, you have a pretty clear example of success in each one of these elements. So starting with the first one, which is you've changed your language and approach with business owners. And the thing that really comes up for me, and I think one of the things that when you looked at when the nominees came in for Exit Plan of the Year, it embraces the rolling 12 months, basically, from summit to summit in the EPI world, right? So it's basically like May to May. And in that time frame, particularly over the last rolling 12 months, you've made a huge surge in what you guys at Morton called the Strategist. And then you came out with this thing that I tell you I carry in my briefcase still today because I pop it open on all my trips. It's a really cool business owner magazine. And I say this like business owner toolkit. So clearly when it comes to the best-in-class element of changing your approach and language with your business owner clients or prospects, you guys have done it. So can you use that Strategist and Business Owner magazine as a kind of a catalyst to that best-in-class element of change of approach and language?
Yeah, for us, that really, we've had the offering, and it's the Strategist offering. And it was like, how do we continue to showcase it in a way that meets the owners where they are? And it forced us to, and it really was a collaborative effort. It wasn't just something that Mike, my partner, and I came up with, who was the other exit planner at the firm. I was really a driving force. Our marketing team was really behind it. But we did leverage our network, which is the collaboration with many of the chapter members and those in the community of the advisors that we turn to, who are, we always say exit planning is a team sport.
Exactly right.
But where I think what for us is we're really good at sort of project management and quarterbacking and marshaling resources. And that's exactly what we did in the Strategist magazine. And I do call it a toolkit. And it was what we were sort of running into is how do we take, there's a lot of great, I think, books and the theory out there, but how do we actually distill it into a roadmap or something that if I literally handed it to an owner from start to finish of the value acceleration methodology, from the triggering event and valuation to the very last article you see is about the psychology of the exit.
Right.
And what are the practical lessons learned from not only ourselves, but the other advisors that would help an owner really start to think about what is the journey they're going to be going down if they're embarking upon true exit planning. And that was really the goal, was to give them essentially a blueprint of what to expect. And in that, we covered everything from, value enhancements that were covered by, CFOs for hire and culture leaders and fractional CFOs and all of the things you need to do to drive value in the business. And then obviously in the personal side, we covered income replacement, estate planning, taxes. We started looking at deal structure, if it's a family succession or actually a sale to a third party or an ESOP, what are the things you got to consider? And then we buttoned it up with, and we'll talk more about it, but the actual owner identity and the psychology post-exit from an owner who exited and now he's actually playing that role as a coach. Right. And I thought actually two of them was a great way to sort of put the exclamation point on the toolkit.
Right. Yeah, because on that toolkit, you said that there's like 16 or something collaborators.
There is,
thing,
yeah,
right?
16
That's
or
in addition
17.
to what you guys are
correct.
You guys are doing too. And I do. I like what you said, and I want to make sure the audience grabbed it as a takeaway, a blueprint on what to expect. When I heard you say that, what I also wrote down is the other thing that we teach our CEPAs that you've clearly embraced is. In I think the new way of thinking for business owners is they don't necessarily want advisors that just give them the right answers. They want advisors that can listen and teach. And so by creating a blueprint on what to expect, you're bringing to the table for me, though you might focus on the wealth side of things.
100%.
You're bringing a whole blueprint to say, Scott, look, let's slow down.
Yep.
Let me teach you a little bit about what this is going to look like, and then let's showcase some of the different advisors and their perspectives along the way. So that's also changing your approach, right? Where
agreed.
20 years ago, we might have been saying, like, look, you hired me to do your wealth plan or your investment plan. Like, here's my different scenarios. Yeah. Now you're saying, before we even get there, let's talk about what this journey to significance and holistic living and valuable business looks like. So I think that's a huge one too. That's had to change your owner conversations from. Is that how you lead the conversation? Like if I'm a brand new owner, Joe, and I get introduced to you,
sure.
What's that experience like?
Yeah, I mean, I think usually where I really try to meet the owner where they are first, right? And so is it, understanding who they are, what their pain points are. What their openness to sort of coaching is. Right, sure. How much time and energy are they going to devote to this, both from a budget and a resource standpoint, but where they are, and then it really gets into, again, sort of a discovery of where they are, and starting to then, as we go through the process, understanding, laying out what are the realities of like what we're dealing with. Who do they already have on their team that may be able to be part of the exit team? How far in the future do they really realistically is an exit going to be? What sort of exit will that take place? Have they done any planning? So all this ultimately filters into your first gate, right? Is the discover gate theoretically, right? Or what's taught in the methodology. Yeah. But that really starts from day one. I look at it from your initial conversation. Right.
Yeah, you're kind of already.
It's like you're already in the discovery gate. Yeah. It's just to what degree is it formalized with the triggering event, or more informal as we're feeling each other out. Yeah. And the other thing that we even see with like the state of owner readiness, right, is part of it is like, number one, have they been through an exit before? Right. If they have, they are going to be much more skilled in the sense of the realities of what to expect. Yep. In terms of the number of touches of other advisors are going to have to be involved, right? In their level of how involved they're going to have to be in due diligence, versus someone who's never been through it before, right? It's going to be a recalibration, maybe of expectations, or even just managing expectations. It's far different. I also think like there are some owners we've worked with where the exit itself actually really didn't financially mean as much to them. Like they could still go into retirement. Yeah. Maybe they were trying to exit because it was more for personal reasons or more for the employees or more for the legacy of the business. Yeah. Maybe they were more financially secure. So that is a different way in terms of how we're going to approach them. Where some, it's like this is their shot on goal if they want a secure retirement. Right. And so that's that. All of these things are, I think, just different ingredients that we have to sort of manage as the process is unfolding.
So also around language and approach. And so I thought about this because I typically talk to this in the CEPA program. So if you're a newer CEPA listening, you might hit top of mind for you. The other thing that I think happens inside of this change of approach in language is the way you introduce yourself. So not to put you on the spot here, Joe, but you have to fly back home to California tomorrow, right? And if you sat next to me and on the plane and we just started chatting it up as we're getting ready for takeoff, and I said, well, what kind of work do you do, Joe? Like how has becoming a CEPA perhaps changed that conversation? Like what would that answer be for you? If I said, Joe, like what kind of work do you do?
Yeah, I mean, the way a lot of times I'll answer it is I'm helping clients get financial peace of mind. Okay. And if I know I'm talking to a business owner in some way, shape, or form, the idea of an exit comes up. Right. A lot of times I use the analogy of a general contractor. I'm like, hey, have you ever remodeled a house? I actually just went through it myself. And the reality is, like, I could have probably remodeled my house, but I don't have the time, the energy, and the expertise to do that for an investment of this magnitude. I actually have retained a general contractor who, while he is not the one hammering the nails, he's really good he knows how the permitting process. He knows exactly what steps we need to take. Mm-hmm. He knows how to project manage, and he knows which subcontractors to hire and how to move the process along. Mm-hmm. And he's my one point of contact to go to for all things that are going well, and anytime I want to bitch and complain. And it's on him.
Right, exactly.
And so essentially, I use that analogy when I talk to owners about the idea of the role of an exit planner. Because a lot of times they'll think like, well, we're going to do everything. I'm like, no, they're not. And we're not going to be the ones hammering all the nails, right? But we know how to understand what your vision is. Mm-hmm. We understand the process. Right. We're really good at project management, and we're really good at marshaling resources.
See? Yeah. I mean, that is a spot-on answer because that's truly, in this, I think we have this debate in our profession and maybe some misunderstanding with owners and like what really is an exit planner, right? Because exit planners take many forms, right? Some of them 100%. Do wealth management, some of them do accounting, some of them do legal, some of them do value growth, some of them represent an exit option. But what you just described is holistically what any CEPA that's sitting down at your table or next to you in that flight should be able to say similar things, right? We're all trained collectively on. We understand how to marshal resources, make quality introductions. We understand the team players. We understand the general process, and we understand our role within it. Right. You're like we do the project management, and we do X, Y, and Z. Everything else, I'm going to bring in these resources or people that help us move this plan along. Because you can't possibly, the guy hammering the nails probably shouldn't be the guy putting in the glass.
No, 100%.
So there's a specialist for both of those. So that's a great answer as well. So you alluded to this, so I want to start to move into the second, the second best-in-class element, which is the best-in-class CEPAs like you have this really cool ability, and you call it, I wrote this down, marshaling and resources. This unique ability to connect and collaborate. And when I think about you, there's a very special moment that some of the newer team members at EPI didn't realize when I was talking about you. You are our first and only virtual chapter launch. Right. And so one of the things that Joe did during our pandemic, I guess it was, right? Where we had already started down the chapter launch train, and we had to obviously put an abrupt halt on everything when our pandemic hit. And I remember you saying, like, look, man, let's roll the dice. It's the entrepreneur in you, right? You're like, let's roll the dice, and let's just and you said, like, I think people want to get together more so than ever. We just physically can't go do it in person. But we want that human interaction, so let's just launch online. And so I was like, dude, I don't think this is going to be a great idea, man. And you're like, trust me, it's going to be good. And so we did it, and it was a huge success. In your chapter now, you are one of you're also unique in the sense that you've been able to successfully transition that chapter to new leadership and a new president. And so that chapter has really come full circle. But when I think about connection and collaboration, it runs deep. But you even said with the Business Owner magazine and toolkit that you leaned into your chapter network for resources. So when I think about connection and collaboration, I think, the amazing chapter that you guys created. So can you kind of talk to the elements of what created that and maybe why one should consider doing a chapter to bring people together?
Well, I think it is an exercise in showing you, it's for someone who's a new CEPA, I think in many ways the idea of starting a chapter is, it can be overwhelming, but I also think it is a way to test the waters, again, on a project management basis of leadership, makes you refine your message. It forces you to be out there, but it also forces you to, again, gather those other team of advisors that you're gonna need if you're going through an actual exit, right? I'm gonna need an attorney, right? A transaction attorney, not just a general attorney, a transaction attorney. I'm gonna need an estate attorney. I'm gonna need a tax or someone, a CPA, tax expert. I'm gonna need an M&A advisor. I'm gonna need a growth consultant. I'm gonna need a banker. I'm gonna need these resources. And so it's like, to me, it's almost like foundational, laying the work on refining your message, on leadership, on collaboration, and on getting the right team in place so that when you have a client who actually is approaching you to do the work, you've already got that built. You're not scrambling trying to do that while you're actually trying to tend to the client.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
So I think it has been a huge success, right? And it's probably what now? Almost 6 years?
5 years. Because we started it was 2020, COVID.
Yeah, so COVID,
yeah, it's been 5.5 years.
So you'll be 5.5 years.
Yeah.
And now your business partner, Mike, is running the chapter. So you kind of kept it in the Morton family.
Well, I did, of course.
In terms of the presidency,
and I'm still in the leadership team.
Yeah, and you're still an active leader.
He's very much
What kind of goals and objectives does the chapter have now? Like, what's going on in the chapter work for you guys locally or regionally?
Yeah, I mean, we want to continue to grow the presence, more deal structure. We obviously, one of the things, the first, there were two main goals that I had. Obviously, we did the state of owner readiness, which that was a big thing for us as a firm, for me personally, and us as a chapter. And that was a year and a half ago. So I think we're talking about at some point doing another one of those. The other big thing was, for a number of years, Morton and myself were sort of covering the costs, and so taking that same approach that we had in terms of resiliency, significance, we wanted to lean into how can we make sure that this thing is sustainable long term, right? And so converting to a fee-paying model, and then obviously for me at some point I was like, hey, I want to make sure that again, if I'm not around, I got hit by a bus or whatever, like it's not, that same principle. I'm like, I got to practice in what I'm doing in work and in this domain as well. And so it's been a great handoff for Mike. He's done a phenomenal job in terms of continuing to add members. He's equally or maybe even better than I am in terms of his networking capabilities, truly. And so I think he exemplifies collaboration at a level that it continues to inspire me, and I think really inspire the chapter. So
that's very cool. I like Mike quite a bit too, and you could see his stamp on the chapter since you transitioned leadership. So what you're saying too, in terms of connecting people inside of the chapter, you sound a little bit like my dad when he started the first chapter ever here in Cleveland back in 2000. I guess that would have been 2011.
Wow.
And Dad did it for that same reason, is that once he really fell into the holistic exit planning space, right? Because Dad was just doing business stuff,
right? And
he became a CEPA in 2008 because he found that the missing pieces, right? He was like, oh man, there's a whole personal financial side that I'm missing, and there's a whole personal side that I'm missing, and then there's the exit options, right? And so Dad said, rather than do these like one-on-one breakfasts and lunches, I need to build a team that I like here regionally and locally, that I'm going to start a chapter so I can do that. And at any one chapter meeting, there might be a dozen different professional disciplines in the room, right? Representing the different facets and ecosystem of value acceleration. It did what you're saying. It did something similar for you. It allowed you to expand your team, and now you get to see that team like once a month, right? Because they're always coming back to the meetings.
Well, and then the other thing that is done is, what we have done after the toolkit. I was going to mention this earlier. Is this year we've actually done 4 in-person panels. Morton hosted for the Strategist at our office. Now, there's a lot of, collaboration from the chapter itself, but it's typically about half owners and half maybe COI, centers of influence from whether it's the chapter or others in our ecosystem. So, we'll have 20 to 30 folks in the room. And it's either Mike or I moderating a panel, and it's on a specific topic. So, one was tax. I did value enhancements with a growth strategist, an HR consultant, and a CPA in May.
Yeah.
Mike just did one on deal structure last month, and then we'll have one more at the end of the year. So where I'm going with this is to your question about why should someone start a chapter? Well, then there's obviously company and personal benefits of growing your practice with it that naturally spring out from it.
Yeah, I think it becomes a branding experience. I think
100%.
we were just in St. Louis a couple months ago launching their chapter and sitting at that chapter leadership dinner. They said, look, whether I'm the president of the chapter or vice president or one of the directors, having some type of leadership role, there's something to be said about being on that team.
Oh, sure.
And by being on that team, it allows you to, again, showcase that change in language and approach. To say, look, you might think of us as a wealth advisory firm, but we're actually this holistic group of exit planning advisors that could be a real asset on your team if you have a business owner who's looking to exit in 3 to 5 years, right? Yeah. So it allows you to just tell that story, certainly regionally and locally, when you have that chapter and bring together great advisors. So I think that's a win. So I want to get into the last best-in-class element, 3 of 3. We're going to do that, though, right after a quick break. So stick with us. We'll be right back.
Exit planning is strategic planning. That's why 90 partnered with the Exit Planning Institute to help leaders build organizations that are ready for anything, including a successful transition. Take Josh Anderson from Acuity Technologies. In 2021, his team started running on EOS powered by 90. They focused on clarity, accountability, and execution. Earlier this year, they exited, joining forces with Decision Point Technologies. For Josh, this wasn't luck. It was a result of doing the work, staying disciplined, and using the right tools to drive outcomes. Ready for your successful exit story? Join us at 90.io Exit Planning to learn more.
Are you a business owner seeking to unlock the true potential of your enterprise? Look no further than the second edition of Christopher Snider's revolutionary book, Walking to Destiny: 11 Actions an Owner Must Take to Rapidly Grow Value and Unlock Wealth. In this updated edition, Snider presents proven strategies for maximizing your company's value and accelerating growth. Whether you're aiming to sell or simply want to ensure long-term success, this book offers a blueprint for building a thriving, self-sustaining business. Walking to Destiny isn't just another book, it's a game changer, backed by Snider's own experience as a successful business owner and as a CEPA. This book bridges the gap between business owners and advisors, guiding you towards financial freedom. But don't just take our word for it. Hear from those whose lives have been transformed by its insights. One satisfied reader raves, "The best guide for transitioning out of privately owned companies. I recommend it to all business owners and advisors." Another praises it on its focus for maximizing business value, calling it their, quote, principal tool for educating owners. Ready to take control of your business's destiny? Visit walkingtodestiny.com now and use code EXITISNOW to claim your free copy of Walking to Destiny: 11 Actions an Owner Must Take to Rapidly Grow Value and Unlock Wealth. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Make the moment perfect by seizing this opportunity today.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Exit Is Now podcast. We're hanging out with the Exit Planner of the Year, my friend Joe, in from California, spending a couple of days with us as we get onboarded into the new Exit Planner of the Year campaign that'll lead us to our summit, the Exit Planning Summit in Nashville in April, where me and you will take the stage again together and kind of co-host and co-MC this thing. It'll be fun. But what we've been talking about over the last half hour or so is what I thought was wildly appropriate to talk to you about, given you're the Exit Planner of the Year, is these best-in-class elements of the most trusted and valued advisor. How do I become that? What does that look like? So there are 3 of them. 2 of them we talked about. We talked about changing your language and approach with owners, and we just finished up talking about becoming a connector and collaborator. And so the third element that is left to talk about is this concept of being, we would call it internally at EPI, purposeful growth. Mm-hmm. But being a lifelong learner, like always staying curious. I think I was saying to you as we kind of came into the show, the beauties and perhaps one of the hard parts as well about the value acceleration methodology is as more and more owners get access to it and start to use it inside of their business and life, they give folks like you feedback. Yep. Like, this is what works. This is how I'd like to see that tweaked. You guys are reporting back to the Exit Planning Institute saying, hey, maybe you guys should think about evolving it this way or that way because we're your kind of army in the field. Yep. And this is how it's actually being implemented. And so I think it's a critical piece of actually being a best-in-class advisor because there's just all this evolution inside of our profession, and I think there
Absolutely.
will be. And so talk to me about kind of what makes you tick, right? I think some of the most interesting things that I see you doing is a lot of like personal growth.
Yes.
You're talking about the motorcycle tour.
Which
you
I'm
were
looking
talking
forward to.
about going out to Denver, where both as an advisor, a husband, a father, a business advisor, an owner yourself. We need these points, I think, to kind of pause and reflect and grow.
100%.
And so, talk to us about some of the things that maybe your fellow advisors in the community could consider to maybe slow down and speed up and continuously challenge themselves to learn and grow.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of us who are professionals and successful, like we're driven, we're ambitious, we want to hit goals. But I also, personal growth for me is something that's really critical, really over the last 10 years, but even more so as I'm closing in on 50. And, it's just, I've always been somewhat of a reflective individual. But I think if you're going to be asking an owner to sort of pause and reflect on what they want, which is really hard for a lot of them to do, I think in many ways we have to be able to say that we've done the work ourselves. Because by going through that process yourself, you're going to be a better coach, a better teacher, a better way of just a better advisor in doing that, right? And so I really try to walk the walk, not just talk the talk, so to speak. Both with with my family, with my career, and then with me individually. And so I believe you have to take time out to do those things that rejuvenate you, so you can show up and be a better advisor, be a better business owner, be a better boss, better husband and father.
So it's interesting for me too, because it's just like a blend of being away. So like for me, I travel a lot too.
Yeah.
So when I look at Joy, my wife, and I go, hey, I want to go on this personal reflection. She's like, you're going to be gone for another few days?
Yeah.
But since I think you certainly do it better than me. And like when we were hanging out yesterday at dinner and you said, look, I got this trip in Cleveland with you guys. And then I got boom, I got 2 more trips.
Yeah.
But the 2 other trips that you're going on are more like personal investments than they are business trips. And so do you feel that your family can see it when you come home, that you're just fresh and energized
I think so.
and focused?
Yeah,
it adds value across the board?
Yeah, I mean, my wife knows I get, I can be a little bit on edge if I've got too much stress going on, and she's like, "You might need to go away.
Yeah, you got to get on that.
Get out of here."
Trip again,
I think it is something that they can see, and this is a little bit of a unique period. I got 5 trips in the course of like 5 weeks. That's a little more than as usual,
right?
It just so happens that the way things kind of stacked up. But as I get what I think happens for a lot of owners, and I think actually a lot of people's success is there's certain areas like we focus on our career, maybe we get to a point where we're focusing on our family. I know for me, the one that I sacrifice, it tends to be my friendships, where like my social connectivity is probably the thing that I let slip the easiest. And that is one where, like, for example, the trip that I have to Denver is with 4 or 5 guys.
Yep.
We've made it now. I think this will be their 4th year in a row, an annual trip. And so it's becoming, and even just once a year is enough to feel like I'm at least investing in that part of my life that fills up the personal. The jujitsu, which I do a lot of, is something I love, but it's taught me a lot about how to, I think, be a better father and a better advisor.
Exactly.
Just because it is like, there's a lot of highs and there's a lot of lows, but it's just, you got to put in the work, and it's progress for progress sake. A lot of it's like you don't see the improvements until 6 months later, 12 months later, which in many ways, I think a lot of times when we're thinking about business improvements or anything that we're doing that's somewhat new, there's just that uncomfortable of like, I don't know how to quite do this yet. I kind of know what I want, and like, but I got to keep working through the imperfections and that feedback loop that you talked about. So it's, for me, it's a model of like how we do what we do.
Yeah. So talk to me a little bit about the technical side of things too, right? Because there's the craft of what we do, both as a certified exit planning advisor and as a wealth advisor.
Yeah.
Where do you go for that more advanced knowledge, if you will? You have some thoughts and insights on that?
So, I mean, I feel very fortunate in terms of from the wealth management standpoint. at Morton, we have a company and a system and a team that, like, every Thursday we do education sessions from 9:30 to 11.
Wow.
And some of those qualify for continuing education. And sometimes it's the investment fund managers that we work with talking specifically about some of the real estate or, why we're investing in gold or outlook on the stock market, or maybe it's more on the planning side, technical things on like obviously where there was the new tax bill that came down, or maybe it's the latest on Roth IRAs or whatever it might be. So a part of the company culture and the resources are dedicated to that. We have, I think, 15 or 16 CFPs on staff.
Wow.
We obviously have 2 exit certified exit advisors. So Mike and I will actually, from time to time, put on educational topics. We'll bring in outside speakers that may be talking about everything from lending to insurance to reverse mortgages to estate tax. So I go back to that point about leaning on resources, whether they're internally or externally, to continue to refine our message. And then when we're actually building like financial roadmaps, I'm actually partnering with our financial planning team. Right.
Well,
so I obviously know like the moving parts around like deal structure, earnouts, seller notes, this, that, and the other that maybe they don't have the experience in. But like when we're modeling this in eMoney, which is the actual financial planning software, like I have technical experts helping us do the work.
Exactly.
That's not what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis.
But I like that it's become a part of your culture at Morton, where you guys also believe in lifelong learning so much that on Thursdays you guys are offering courses for the people that are at your firm. So it's something that we have actually done. So we have a professional development plan and strategy for our people at EPI. But now we're actually making a more deliberate effort to do lunch and learns to continue to expose everybody to our own methodology and how we're living it, right? It allows our people to have better conversations with our members. But it also, because I'd like to think we're living it too, right? So, and we live it every day, right? So we're close to wealth gap and value gap and foreign intangible capitals and all these things that we teach. But you could even see just the reminder of the why behind what we're doing is important. So I think that's a wonderful thing that you guys are doing at the firm too, and it has to be a cool recruitment tool where like if I'm coming there as a younger person, then I can get CE, I can get access to people. Sounds very cool.
Well, and then it dovetails really nicely with like the career pathing that our HR department has really done in terms of investing for, into the young professionals and then grooming talent and growing them either into advisors or the planning, or if they want to go more the analyst route.
Right.
They have just a myriad of options, but also a path forward that lays out very clearly sort of what the expectations are, but that they don't have to sort of just naturally figure it out on their own. That in many ways I kind of had to do.
Right. Blazing a new trail for the next generation.
Right. Yeah.
So we're coming to our close. So I want to kind of give a summary of kind of what we talked about for our audience. Here's my takeaways. I'm sure when we're all listening to podcasts, if you do have a piece of paper in front of you, you're maybe taking some notes. But for me, several like really cool things that I think we can consider inside of in our firms if we're advisors. So we just went through the best in class advisor elements, right? We've changed our language and approach. We've connected and collaborated, and we have this lifelong learning mentality. For me, 4 things really stood out, Joe. One, I think that people should shoot an email to you and talk about how you leverage that state of owner readiness survey. We didn't go down that path, but it was a big note that stood out to us. Many inside of a lot of our listeners know all of our research. We were just talking about the generational state of owner readiness survey that we released. So leveraging research inside of your networks, I think, is absolutely critical and drives both change in language, but also drives collaboration.
When it positions you as a thought leader.
And positions you as a thought leader.
And I think when you're either putting that thought leadership out there for yourself or you're highlighting somebody else, they really appreciate that as well. And so that builds a collaboration.
Exactly. So 2, I really like this layout of a blueprint on what to expect. To me, that hit me because, again, I said this when we were in this segment of the show, is that I think business owners want relationships and they don't want transactions.
100%.
So by showing them what this journey of exit planning is going to be, this blueprint on what to expect, I think you just bring clarity and alignment. And I think that's absolutely critical early on in the exit planning conversation. And two, I like the way that you also leverage the chapter. You talked about being able to kind of build out that team of advisors that you might have not have had if you didn't have start that chapter and get exposure to a bunch of different local and regional advisors that you could bring in and get to know. And then I love what you just talked about. I wrote down, live it yourself. We have to do it in our own work so that we can showcase it to the owners that we want to go and serve. So I know as an owner myself, I would love talking to you and being like, oh, Joe's doing this in his own firm.
Yeah.
No wonder he's so educated and confident in it because he lives it every day as well. I think that's a big moment for a lot of CEPAs because I see a lot of new CEPAs coming out of the program and saying, I'm not quite confident in having these conversations with owners yet. And the answer for me typically is whether you own your own firm or you run a big team of advisors within a firm, embrace the methodology in your own team and business, and that'll alone build the confidence because you'll have the real life experience to say, oh yeah,
they'll have conviction.
You're like, oh yeah, I've challenged myself with personal planning, or we did the valuation on our firm, or whatever it might be. We do have 5 big rocks. We are taking these quarterly renewal trips, and so you're kind of living it yourself, which I think naturally builds confidence. So 4 takeaways that I saw amongst many others. So, Joe, I really appreciate you flying into Cleveland and spending 2 days with the Team EPI, man. And we'll look forward to celebrating throughout the year and leading our way up to the summit. And we'll see you again on the show as well soon. Thanks, Joe.
Scott.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time. So our next show is December 10th. So please subscribe, listen, and leave a review on all of your podcast platforms. Thanks, guys. We'll see you.